I lost $10,000 in my first 10 minutes of day trading. And no, it wasn't a bad market day. It was me, totally clueless, trying to day trade in the futures markets. If I had known then what we're about to share with all of you, I wouldn't have torched my account completely that morning. In fact, by the time the dust settled, I had lost probably over a few weeks about $50,000. Now, that was a long time back, but trust me, I remember this like it was yesterday. In this video, we're going to break down 5 things we wish we knew before we took our first day trades. These are hard-earned lessons that are going to save you all a lot of losses and a lot of heartache. Truly, if you can master these 5, you're well on your way to a very successful day trading career where you can potentially generate full-time income trading part-time. Hey, this is Mark. I'm the founder of NetPicks.
This is Brian, author of the High Velocity Wave Trader.
Brian, can you relate at all to my horrendous story of when I first started day trading?
Mark, unfortunately, I can. This goes back a long time, probably close to 40 years ago, when my first day trade was successful. And sometimes I say that's probably the worst case. This goes back to the days when we would get broker hot tips. And we literally made $1 million in 1 year. We were on cloud 9, and then we turned right around and the dot-com bust came and we lost that million and more. That was my first experience in day trading. We would get in and out of these positions in a day. After that, I started to think, I want to take control over that. I want to be the one pulling the trigger on the trades and deciding when to get in and get out.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So let's do this. Let's jump into the top 5 things that we wish we knew. And it's, I think, going to save a lot of you a lot of stress. The very first thing that is critical is you have to choose the right markets to start day trading. I can tell you most people, when you first start day trading, me as well, start with the S&P 500 E-mini. And that's actually the absolute wrong answer. And this is our experience working with thousands of traders over the last 8 years with Brian's High Velocity Wave Trader. Brian, what is the market you tell everybody to get started with if it isn't the S&P 500?
Yeah, the market that we highly recommend for brand new traders is the Russell 2000 Index Futures. And it's the market that we have traded every day for 8 years live in the market for our brand new people that come in. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, the price action on this index futures moves fairly steady, a little bit slower. So as you're a new trader, it becomes easier to execute. Now, we have our other favorite markets, but this is the one that we highly recommend you start with.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's so much easier when your target is hit. You almost always get a fill. These are a lot of things you struggle with the S&P 500 E-mini futures. It doesn't mean, like Brian said, we can't trade those markets. But if you want to avoid some of the pain in the beginning, go for the markets that are more beginner friendly. The second key thing that we tell everybody to do these days, and this is something that Brian and myself, we never had this available to us. I really wish we did. And that you now have the ability to trade with a funded account. It is a true no-brainer. Why would you risk your own personal capital if you don't have to? Especially because if you use one of these funded accounts properly, you can keep up to 90% of the profits, if I'm correct. What do you tell people when it comes to these type of accounts?
The funding process now available to traders is a game changer. Before, you'd have to fund an account. And a lot of times that was an issue for traders. You'd have to put $5,000 in an account. And for some people, that's a lot of money. For a very small amount of money, you have the opportunity to trade an account to profitability and start to pull money out on a regular basis. And as Mark mentioned, the split on that is 90-10. You get to keep 90% of the profit, the effort that you put in to that trading process. So again, this has been a game changer. What I find is for traders that maybe are a little bit slower in the learning process, it gives them longevity to get across the finish line and become successful traders.
Plus, I know it has very strict criteria, so it almost forces you to trade with discipline as a new trader. That's like the last thing I had. I did a lot of things, made a lot of mistakes because I really didn't have anybody forcing me, almost mentoring me to trade correctly. And I think with funded accounts, one of the other big benefits, besides obviously not risking your own capital, that does a great thing for your mental state, your trade psychology, and your wallet. It enables you to trade much bigger positions. But I think it also forces you to be a smarter trader. I know there's one big catch to using a funded account. Nobody's going to give you their funds unless you actually have a trading system that clearly works. So let's go ahead to point number 3, which really is you've got to have a crystal clear trading system. It is impossible to trade any day trading system effectively if you're just going to wing it. If you're just going to, on a whim, decide you're going to buy here and sell there, You might get lucky for a little bit, but you're not going to get very lucky for very long. You have to have a system, we believe, that clearly identifies an entry point, a target, and a stop. So, Brian, maybe we can bring that chart back up and you can talk about that a little bit.
Those are very important aspects to trading. And I feel like the most important one is what is the risk that you're putting on each trade? As traders, we always like to look at the profit side of the equation, but going into a trade, you got to know where that risk is and you got to let that risk be it on the trade and not move it. And that's exactly what we do with HVWT. Here is a trade from one of our recent sessions. The plus sign indicates that we want to get into the trade at that point. That's our entry level. This is a money management level. The yellow dot, that's 80% of the way towards our fixed objective. We want to make an adjustment to the risk at that point. Ultimately, we want to get to this target objective, which is the blue dot there on the fixed position. One of the things we do with the high velocity wave traders, we trade a 2-position approach. If you've read any books at all on trading, but one of the things you want to do is cut your losses short, let your winners run. And that's what the second position, what we call our big wave position, does. We put ourselves in a position to capture as much of a move as possible. And that's what this second trailing position does right here. It exits right here for almost double what the fixed position got. In my opinion, a successful recipe for a system that puts the edge in your favor. And like I mentioned, this value you can see on the chart of this trade alone for 15 minutes of your time is $1,340. In the funding world, that's almost halfway to your $3,000 objective on a single day. That's a home run trade. Granted, not every day is going to be that way, but this is one of the trades we called in our live session.
We always talk about it like putting a roadmap, a GPS on the chart, because otherwise price action is really hard to analyze. It's jittery, it's up and down. The way you do it with the high velocity wave trader is clear. I know this is a special type of chart, but it does clean up price action quite a bit. The key thing here is you have exact places to get in. And it doesn't matter, right, if you're short or you buy. I'm assuming when you start the day, do you have any idea which direction you're going to trade, or do you just go where the price takes you?
No, we have very specific rules to get in. I didn't mention this vertical line right here is our start time. And we choose windows of time where we know price action is most likely to occur. Well, we wait for the price action to tell us which direction to go. And that's one of the keys with this system. And I think one of the successes of it, again, we haven't changed this approach in 8 years. It's the same thing that we did 8 years ago. And so that's the benefit of having a system and an approach to tell you when to get in and when to get out.
Another big benefit is you can't be right every time. We're going to have losers, absolutely, on a regular basis. We know that not every trade will go like this, but when you're following something fairly mechanically, you're okay with the trade not working out because you did everything you were supposed to do. The system can handle it and you move on to the next trade. Awesome. So the fourth key point really is trading the right time of day. I know, Brian, when you've developed these trade plans that we call them for the Russell E-mini or for crude oil or the NASDAQ, you trade very specific times of day. I know your system can work day and night, but I'm going to assume that the odds are best in certain pockets of time. If you're a new trader, the last thing you want to do is trade during lunch hours or the final minutes of the day. The times that are really hard are right when news comes out. What do you typically suggest to traders, especially new traders? When should they be trading on this approach?
Yeah, there are different windows of time that we can trade. The sweet spot is the US Open, the New York Open, which is at 9:30. That's the open that we've traded again for years, as I mentioned. There are other areas. I've got traders that do trade overnight. The London session, probably the second best session window to trade, which is about 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do have traders that will trade other pockets and other areas, but they're a little more intermediate to advanced. There is the 6 p.m. open, which many of my traders trade. So futures close every day at 5 o'clock and they open back up at 6. If we've had a big day on the futures and it goes into that close, there's a good chance it will open up with some activity. And that's, again, what we're all about as traders. We're looking for that movement. What we want to stay out of is that sideways price action that's doing nothing. So as a brand new trader, our recommendation always is to start where that most activity is. And I'm always going to recommend the 9:30 US Open.
Always stack the odds in your favor. We say this all the time. Don't overtrade. We teach something called power of quitting, which the whole idea is get into that sweet spot, hit your targets, and be done with the day. And then, like Brian mentions, the awesome news is as you get better and more experienced, there's additional time frames that you can start stacking and adding to what you're doing, which brings us really to the fifth key point. And this is you have to master risk management. So we jumped over to the live market from this morning. We wanted to see what was happening. One of the keys here, you'll notice, and Brian will cover this in a moment, is we got very fortunate. We had a trade just take off to the upside. Not every trade does this. We don't want to represent this, expect this every morning. But even though this trade had nearly a home run result, the initial risk was always kept low and controlled. We're using funded accounts, so it is somebody else's capital, but we have to keep that risk low in order to qualify for these funded accounts. We never enter a trade without knowing exactly what that max risk is going to be, and then we can let the trade do what it's going to do. So kind of let us know a little bit about this trade, Brian, and why risk management is so essential.
This is live market. This literally just happened as we're doing this. It's 9:52. And yeah, this is the same approach that we've taken for years. We look for an impulse move out of the open, and that's what we got here. If I move this away, you'll see the very same setup I showed you a little bit ago on this bounce out of that session low, and then this is just a rocket ship to the upside. The initial risk on this trade was $650. The important thing to know, here was the risk. It's well below the session low. I love the position of that. It just doesn't get any easier than this right here. The value of this trade right here is $2,100, which is crazy. It's a home run hit.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great to see. And then we do see this on a semi-regular basis. And sure, other days are a little choppier. You got to work a little harder for it, but that's okay. And that's why we really stress these 5 things. If you learn these 5 and just stick to them, you're going to be better off probably than 99% of the traders that are out there trying to succeed in these markets. Just really quick. Number 1, right? Choose the right market. Number 2, trade with a funded account. Number 3, use a crystal clear system like the high velocity wave trader. If it's not the high velocity wave trader, have it be something else that can clearly get you in and out at the right times. Number 4, focus only on specific times. Day trading, you can, as you get better, even with our system, we're able to trade all kinds of different hours of the day and night. But in the beginning, focus on those top time slots. And the 5th thing, like you see here, is what enables you, what permissions you to catch these big trades is because you use proper risk management, risk size. Like Brian mentioned, before funded accounts, you might have to put up $10,000, $20,000 to trade a position like this. Now, if you qualify, you don't even have to put up that capital. It's put up for you. And then you just need to follow a system just like this. In the days ahead, we're going to be releasing the high velocity wave trader again. It only comes out a handful of times per year. We're going to put a link in the description below. If you want to get in on the VIP waitlist, you can do that right now. There's no obligation. It's just going to let you know when we bring this back out onto the market. Just put your email in there and we'll share a lot more information about the system. And you can decide if this is the right fit for you moving forward with your day trading. So with that, Brian, anything you want to say to wrap it up today?
Yeah, I look forward to those of you that have interest and join us. We are all about teaching and helping new traders in their process of learning how to engage the markets. I look forward to working with you if you decide to come on board the HVW team.
We'll see you in the markets, everybody. Take care.
Everything discussed here is our opinion, and it is not to be taken as investment advice because we are not your financial advisor, nor have we considered your personal situation as your fiduciary. This presentation is for your education and entertainment only. Please review NetPicks' full risk disclaimer and privacy policy.